Welcome everybody in the deep dive session. We were discussing about the mind and how mind is related to our Surati, how the Surati is responsible for all the experiences that the soul acquires, either from outside or from inside. So before we move forward, was there any pending question from last time that we were yet to answer? We'll begin with that and then we'll move forward. I'll request rest of you to stay muted. If there is any question, only then you unmute. So I presume that we are ready to move forward. So we are discussing about mind. Mind means man. Man, mind is one atomic entity. You must not confuse mind by saying that mind is like everything. The chitta, buddhi, ahankar, man, they are all just four faces of the same entity, mind. These are the illusionary statement that people make. They are actually four different inner organs. They are four different entities. Mind, the man, is a separate entity. The buddhi, the intellect, is a separate entity. The chitta is a separate entity, and ahankar is a separate inner organ. So there are four separate inner organs. People also confuse saying that mind is of two different levels. One is the conscious mind and one is subconscious mind. People will speak in those terminology as well. And the reason people say that there is a conscious mind and there is a subconscious mind, because you do certain thing consciously where your mind is engaged into performing that activity. And then there are certain activities that we do unconsciously, where you don't put a conscious effort and things happen. So to explain that event, people say that there is something in the subconscious mind which drives you into that action. The reason they say subconscious mind, because of the fact that they do not understand that there are four different inner organs. It can be truly explained better in terms of how the four inner organs work. And in those terminology, we can understand it better, that how we function consciously and how certain time we perform certain activities subconsciously. So when we say that there are certain things that we do habitually, unconsciously, subconsciously, you can probably with all these deep dive session understand a little better that anything that you perform subconsciously or habitually, right? You can perform subconsciously any activity only when you are habituated into it, where you don't have to consciously make any decision for your action, because you have to just repeat the action that you have already performed. So that means all those decisions, all those next move is already preserved somewhere, which is just spawning one after another. Those actional thoughts are spawning one after another from somewhere where you have already preserved it by performing certain activity repeatedly. By all this, I think you are very clear. I'm talking about chitta. So in chitta, all your habits, which we call as sanskar, People misunderstand sanskar also. In Vihangam Yoga, when we say sanskar, by sanskar, it does not only mean how your upbringing is, how you talk, what is your sanskar. When we say sanskar, sanskar is not only how you behave, but sanskar, when you say how you behave, that is just the outer face of your sanskar. But your sanskar is something which you have preserved in your chitta. So whatever is in your chitta, accordingly is your state of chitta. And whatever is your state of chitta, that is what is your sanskar, which will reflect in your speech, which will reflect in your actions, which will reflect in your thought, based on what state of chitta we are in. So when we say sanskar, what is your sanskar? So people say, no, 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 he is brought up in a very good family. He has been given very good sanskar. He has been brought up in very good sanskar. So by sanskar, we do not take sanskar only as the outer face of it, that in what ambience he has been brought up in. Sanskar is a very inside thing. Sanskar is in your chitta, and you carry forward those sanskar from the previous birth also. So it is not only the current birth, but it is all your previous births which also drive in what state of chitta you are in. So it is not only your current life upbringing, but sanskar is the outcome of the current life upbringing, as well as what deeds, thoughts, actions you have carried forward from the previous life. So when you do certain activity subconsciously, and people people will say, in my subconscious mind it was running like this. There is nothing like subconscious mind. Mind is only one thing. Mind is just one. When you say in subconscious mind something was running, what it simply means is that naturally based on my sanskara, meaning whatever is already preserved in my chitta, automatically those brittis were rising. It was very natural of me to get into those thoughts. It was very natural of me to get into those actions where I don't have to put conscious effort, because I'm not creating a new karma to say, though all karma is new, but it is repetitive karma, where I don't have to apply my brain all over again. I don't have to apply my intellect all over again to make arrangement for actions. All arrangements are already made. I have to just repeat the same action. So those stuff are driven directly without putting too much of consciousness into it. That is why we say that, there's something going on in my subconscious mind. It is not anything going on in subconscious mind. Mind is just one. Everything is going on in one mind only. It's just that it is pre-arranged already and it is preserved already in chitta. So chitta is straight away, releasing those actional thought, and you're getting into those actions. So I hope it is clear that mind is only one. There is not to say the subconscious and conscious and those terminology that people use. Mind is just one for a normal human being. And when you speak about the four inner organs, those four inner organs are literally four different inner organs. They are not the four different faces of one entity. Any question on that? Okay, so we're good with that. So now is very important point for those who are a true spiritual seekers. These are very important points, because now we are going to touch upon how we should lead our life. Mind creates illusion. In various references in Surved, Sadhgurudev has described about that anything which is based on the mind, it could be illusionary, because mind will simply create something that you imagine. And mind is also an enemy for the soul in the spiritual field if it is not tamed, if it is not controlled. Uncontrolled, it is an enemy. Controlled, it is a friend. Usually, people have uncontrolled mind. So, in general, mind acts as an enemy. It is only for a yogi, only for a bhakt, a sevak, a deep spiritual seeker, an arat, dina, dheen, vairagi, sevak, that the mind acts as a friend. For the rest of us, mind acts as an enemy. In Swarved, reference 5 to 33, it says that the job of the mind is to keep the consciousness of the soul outside and make the soul engaged in the worldly subjects. And this is why, as long as we'll be associated with the mind will not leave its job. It will continue to connect your surati with the worldly subject. So what it means is that how pure you are from inside. If you are connected to the mind, if you are looking through the window of the mind, you will only get to see the worldly subject, nothing else. Because that is what the mind has reached to. Mind cannot take you to any other experience. It doesn't matter how a good devotee you are, how pure you are, it doesn't matter. Because Adhyatma, spirituality, is also a science. And science does not go by any randomness. How hard you try to use your eyes, there'll be never a time that your eyes will start to listen or to taste or to smell. Eyes can only give you visual experience. No matter how good a devotee you are, there'll be never a time that your ear will start giving you the visual experience, because it is restricted, it is constrained only to give you the experience of the sound. Similarly, whatever is your level of devotion in your terminology, because devotion is also misunderstood. People think that I am a great devotee. I go to temple every day. I chant every day. I don't do any bad karma. I don't think about anything bad. I am very good human being. Everything is fine. But science is a science. There is no randomness into it. No matter how beautifully you decorate your bed, you will get to sleep only when you sleep on that bed. Otherwise, all your decorations will be just of no use if you want to sleep on the bed. You think that I'll keep my eyes wide open and you won't follow the procedure of the sleep, or at least you won't allow the sleep to happen, then the sleep will not happen. You have to allow the sleep to happen. Then only sleep will happen. Meditation, or the experience of consciousness, or the devotion, these are not a random science or not a random abstract things. It all comes under the spiritual science. Devotion is also a science. It is a science. It's not a random thing. So people misunderstand all this. Sadgudev makes it very clear that no matter what a good devotee you are, if your practices is based on your mind, if all you are remembering or chanting or doing anything is based on your mind and speech and your indriyas, then you will remain in the realm of what a mind can reach up to. If you are using the window of the mind, then you will only see and experience stuff where the mind has reached. It cannot take you beyond. The Guru says, what is the reach of the mind? The reach of the mind is the worldly subjects, the world, the sansar, the inertness. And that is why mind will keep the consciousness of the soul outside and make the soul engage in the worldly subjects. By being associated with mind, soul has forgotten its own true form and is suffering with unsatisfactory happiness and sorrow in the world. The other references says that any practices of dharana, dhyan, and samadhi in the realm of mind is all illusion, as the field of mind is inert creation, not the consciousness. When we talk about the dhyan and samadhi, these are the process, the procedures, the event which happens only in the realm of consciousness. But it is the illusion or the ignorance of the people that they will be doing imagination in the mind and they will think that I am getting into dharana, I am getting into dhyan, I am getting into samadhi. I have myself heard people saying that, you know what, I attended 10 days of meditation program and I had felt samadhi there. What people think samadhi is nothing but a moment of thoughtlessness. People think that if I have no thought, that is a state of samadhi. I was in the samadhi state, no thought, thoughtless state. The state of samadhi is the ultimate thing. People just don't understand that. The samadhi is a state where you and God become one. It is not only about a momentary thoughtless state. In the state of samadhi, there'll be nothing in this universe that will be unknown to you. There'll be nothing in the universe which you will not know as and when it is happening. In the state of samadhi, you and God become one. In the state of samadhi, everything that happens will happen in your consciousness. You do not have to know it later, but you know it as it happens. The state of samadhi is the biggest thing. It is an apt state of the soul. It is the purest divine state of the soul. It is not just the momentary, the thoughtless state which people think, I got into samadhi. You know, it is to ridicule the yoga and the adhyatma when people are so misguided by such kind of practices. So our Guru says that we have come here to unfold the truth. It may happen that there'll be people who may not like it, but that's our duty. Our duty is to tell the truth as it is. So our Guru says any practices of dharana, dhyan, and samadhi in the realm of mind is all illusion, as the field of mind is inert creation, not the consciousness. So in the realm of mind, what does it mean? What does it mean that when we say that, you know, you are doing this in the realm of your mind? If anybody can volunteer and add up something to explain, what do you understand when we say you're doing certain thing in the realm of your mind? Okay, I'll just explain it a little more. So when we say in the realm of mind, it simply means that if the soul is making use of the mind to perform any activity, that means it is happening in the realm of the mind. Okay. So what we do is we close our eyes. There are several practices where you close our eyes and then you play with your mental emotion. It will be just your mental emotion. You will start just feeling about it, that I'm feeling very peaceful. It is happening in your mind. It is the mind which is playing the tricks with you, because you're in a very nice ambience. So of course you'll feel good, but we start tagging it into something else. We start thinking that, oh, this is like a spiritual state. Oh, I feel like I happen to see the Almighty Himself. There was a bright light, it was beautiful. There's several imaginations that people start running, all in the mind. Our Guru says that मन के मंडल बैठकर खोजे ब्रह्म अनूप, मन प्रकटे वही रूप में विविध कला में रूप. Whatever is the form of, whatever the form you have imagined in your mind and stored in your chitta, that God would be like this. Some images made and preserved in your chitta. So what will happen is, one day when you are imagining things in the meditation, in the process of meditation, if your process of meditation is imaginative in nature, where you are being guided into imagination, people will say that, okay, think about you are in a beautiful garden, feel the fragrance of the flower, and you're imagining about it. Of course you'll feel good about it. There's such imaginative meditation, guided meditation, where you are being disengaged by the troubles of your life and are being engaged into the emotions, which are very beautiful. So of course, those chemicals, those emotions which are being generated within you will make you feel good. But that is as good as just diverting your mind into something beautiful. If you are a spiritual seeker, then for you, that kind of exercise is only a kindergarten exercise. It is only a preparatory exercise. It is only as good as buying the ticket and waiting at the platform for onboarding into train. You have not yet onboarded into train and started any journey at all. It is just that you have landed into, you have come onto the platform and you are ready. You are just relaxed with your mind, disengaged from the worldly life, and now you are ready to go inside. It is just that much. So looking at how rapidly our time is running, समय अल्प दूर पंथ है. Sadhgurudev says that the time is little and you have to go so far. Let's stop playing childish game anymore. Our Guru says very clearly that Yoga Yatra, the journey in yoga, the journey in devotion, is not about just dancing It's not about just clapping, not about beating the drum. The journey of yoga, the journey of devotion, the spirituality is a science. And unless you follow the procedure of the science, nothing is going to happen, because absolutely there is no randomness in this path. If you run imagination in your mind, then mind is capable to recreate and show you the stuff that you have already imagined of. And this is why any practices of imaginative nature will only make you feel good, because it will show you what you wanted to see. But that will not be the reality. It will be only in the realm of the mind. It will be only in the imagination of your mind. So dharana, dhyan, and samadhi in the realm of the mind, in the imagination of the mind, not in the reality. When we say reality, it simply means to connect to the entity that exists as is, not in your mind. You don't have to go in your mind. No. The real dharana, the real dhyan, and the real samadhi is where there is no imagination of the mind, but it is to connect to the entity as it is. There are certain bhumi, there are certain abode, there are certain entities, there are certain sounds, certain lights, certain things that exist, and you just connect to it. You see it, you experience it without any imagination. And that's how you grow from dharana to dhyan and dhyan to samadhi, by going through the real experience, not in the imagination of the mind. So any practices of dharana, dhyan, samadhi in the realm of mind is all illusion, as the field of mind is inert creation. If people imagine that in the mind, I started imagining about Lord so and so, and he appeared, he had 4 hands, and he had bright face. Please understand that God has infinite hand. In another word, God is not only Chaturbhuj, God is a omnipresent conscious entity. So any imagination of that sort may make you feel good, but it is not going to lead you to break the bondage that we are in. It is not going to lead you to the devotion that the soul is seeking. The cycle of life and death is not going to discontinue by these relaxation and feel good practices. For that, we have to go through the real tap. We have to go through the real process of yoga, where the mind is left behind and soul is set free to go forward into the ultimate devotion. That is a different ball game. That is a practice which happens beyond the realm of mind, not in the realm of mind. Okay, and that's what it says in this. मन ही मन में धारणा, मन ही मन में ध्यान, मन ही मना समाधि है, यह धोखा भ्रम जान. Yeah, and then in 5.123, Sadhgurudev says further, in mental meditation, mind only creates the illusion of Brahm, the way one have imagined about Brahm. Whatever is the imagination about Brahm within you, mind is capable to reproduce and show you that. But the fact is that the actual experience of Brahm is beyond the imagination, beyond the reach of the mind. Okay, so mind creates illusion. Is there any question on this?
No question, Vijayji.
Okay, yeah, nice. The reason I'm discussing this is because we all need to understand how far we have to go in this journey. And so, because only when we realize that where we stand in the field of devotion, it is only then we'll start running our life in the wisdom. It is only then you will understand the urgency of why it is important for me to sit longer in meditation, because I'm yet not there. I have so much to still attain. I am still not able to even control my mind. I have to go that far. I have to leave the mind behind into its origin. There's so much to be done in meditation, and there is no shortcut. You have to go through everything. Only thing is you can change the pace of this journey, but there is no shortcut. Now, I think somebody wanted to speak up. Anybody wanted to say something? Okay, fine. So, so there is no shortcut. The only thing is you can change the pace. You know, somebody sent in the morning in the daily meditation, right? Our organizer only sent it very beautifully. I really liked it. That if an ant, if an ant thinks that I will go to, San Jose from New York, do you think that by its own, on its own, it will be able to reach walking, bits by bits, inch by inch from New York to San Jose or San Francisco, from East Coast to West Coast? Of course, it will be next to impossible for an ant to do. I don't know what is the lifespan of an ant. Will it be able to travel that much on its own? But the path is the same. It has to still follow that much of distance, go through that much of distance. It's just that if it can catch hold of a means which can take it over there, that means will also travel that much of distance, but it will be faster. So we can only make it faster. And that is what the Sadguru is. In fact, in spirituality, there comes a point where only Sadguru can take you forward. There'll be no other alternative to that. It's not that, it's not only about the pace after certain point. After a certain point, it is only the Sadguru who can take you forward. Without him, it's not in human beings' capability to go beyond. So sooner we realize this, sooner we understand this, better it is for us. Otherwise, people think that, there are several paths, all lead to the same thing. It feels good. It gives you a soothing experience. It is only a consolatory experience, I will say. It only console you by saying that all paths are same, all lead to the same abode. But if you really go deeper into it, then you will understand that this has been said for the preliminary stages. For the preliminary stages only it has been said that all paths lead to the same. Lead to what point? All paths lead to a point where you become eligible for Sadguru. Whether you are following any other good activity, any other form of seva, any other form of devotions, everything is purifying you. There are people who have been a devotee of Shiva for several births. And then comes a point that he or she become eligible for the liberation, and Sadguru Dev will adopt him as his child, him or her. There are devotees who are devotee of Lord Durga, or this and that, several other practices, several other forms. Of course, all these are the practices which prepare you for the next level of journey. And that is why it is said that all lead to the same. That is correct. All lead to the same. All will converge to a point from where a Sadguru will come and take you forward. So that is correct. All lead to the same. But one must not generalize it for the entire journey of devotion. That is only for the preliminary journey of devotion, where everything lead to the same, to the feet of the master. So let's save ourselves from any mental meditation. Otherwise, man में Swamiji says, मन के मंडल बैठकर खोजे ब्रह्म अनूप, मन प्रगटे वही रूप में विविध कला में. Even the Brahm will appear in your imagination and you'll be eluded. You will think that, yes, today I experienced God. You know, the people who say this, and I really feel very sad. When I hear this, I feel, hey Bhagwan, how much of ignorance is there in the world? And people are so innocent. People have been left in so much of innocence. It's not, I will say it is partially their mistake too, but it is the mistake of the preachers also, that despite the preacher knows that they themselves have not realized it, yet they are spreading the unexperienced message to others. Unexperienced message. Sadgurudev says, बंधे बंध नहीं कटे, कटे रहे निर्बंध. The one who is himself in bondage, how can that person, that fellow, break the bondage of others? The one who himself is blind, how can he lead another blind into any other path? If the guide himself is blind of the direction, if the guide himself is not aware, have not traveled, not seen those paths, how can he lead others to those paths? This is what is happening today. I personally feel very sad when I see so much of innocence, so much of ignorance all around. So let's not get into trap of those. Let's lead our life in wisdom. Let's lead our life in wisdom, because only when we know the Gyan, the wisdom as it is only then, whether you meditate today or not, whether you attend satsang today or not, whether you engage yourself into seva today or not, if you know the wisdom, if that much is very clear in your head, that this is the path, this is the science, I have to get into it. If I don't follow it, I have no other way. I have to get into it. Then today or tomorrow, maybe 2 days you'll feel lazy. Maybe third day, you will start, the wisdom that you have in your heart will drive you. It will say, come back, Vijay, this is your life. You have to get back on the track. So wisdom is more important. The Vahya Tattva Gyan, the clarity of the knowledge is more important. Even though you are not motivated today, but if the wisdom is clear in your head, then you will come back on the track. Maybe today you missed to meditate. Maybe today you got eluded by several other things, but tomorrow you will come back. You will come back into practices. You'll get back on track. What will drive you on track? It is the wisdom. So wisdom should be the basis of our life, not the intuitions of the mind, not the inspiration of the mind. Don't chase your mind. What you should chase, what you should follow is the wisdom. What is right is what you should follow, not what your mind says. Okay. So mind is keeping the soul in the mud of karma. So as long as you are in the realm of mind, all our actions, as long as we are in the realm of mind, all our time is spent only in accumulating karma. As long as we are associated with the mind, all we are doing is we are accumulating karma more and more and more and more. So the mud of karma is only spreading and going deeper and deeper and deeper. There are five afflictions. Five afflictions, they are called panch klesh. These panch klesha drives us to deepen our mud of karma. What are these five afflictions? Panch klesha. The first is avidya. Avidya means the contrary knowledge, not knowing the truth as it is, not knowing about the self, not knowing about the goal of life, not knowing about where the true happiness is, leading the life in ignorance. And not only, it's not about just not knowing, it is knowing the opposite. We perceive happiness in the worldly matter. So that is the opposite feeling. And you will say, is it not true? The moment we question this, is it not true that the happiness is in the worldly subject? I feel happy in the worldly subject. The moment you say this shows that what is our state right now, right? Our state is such that we find happiness in the worldly subject. And this is what is called avidya. And you will just say that I am not convinced. You are saying that worldly subject does not contain the happiness that the soul is seeking. But I feel happy with the worldly subject. Is it not true? The moment we raise this reflects what is the state of ignorance we are in. We are caught up into it. We believe in it and we feel like that. And this is how the mind has captured our consciousness. It has just reversed our thought. And that's why we are calling it a contrary knowledge. The happiness is inside, but mind has made it opposite. It has convinced us that the happiness is outside. That is the play of mind. We are leading the life in avidya, in contrary knowledge. What is raga? The contrary knowledge is the basis, the foundation of all other klesha, all other afflictions, whether be raga, dvesh, asmita, abhinivesh. The root of all that is avidya only. Once you have avidya, once you have contrary knowledge, then that becomes the foundation for you to raise raga as well. What is raga? The raga is the attraction towards the worldly pleasures that you have already had. Whatever worldly pleasures we have already had, repeatedly, our mind goes towards that. It wants to repeat the same experience. You have had some experience, some pleasure in the past, but the mind will just attempt, will incite you, will invoke you to go for it again and again. It will recreate that craving within you to go for that worldly pleasure again and again. Such craving is what is called raga. And the reason the raga exists is all because of avidya. Avidya is in the root of it. The contrary knowledge is in the root of it. It's just that the raga is another form of avidya, another form of contrary knowledge. So rag, we are caught into raga. We are caught into dvesha. There are certain things we have developed disliking about. And every time it comes in front of us in our life, we feel sad about it. We feel hatred about it. So that's what is dvesha. And even though that subject is not in front of us, The moment it comes in our mind, we feel sad about it, feel sorrow about it, feel hatred about it. So that's what is the dvesha in our mind. Then there is asmita. The reason we spend our life so much in nourishing our body, nourishing our life, because right now that's what we feel about ourselves. We don't spend time in nourishing the soul. We only spend time in nourishing our body, our mind, our emotions, our relationship, our job, our house, our family, because that's what we know about ourselves. We do not recognize ourselves as a spirit, as a soul, so we pay least attention in nourishing the soul. This is the state we are in. This is what is called asmita, where we have misidentity about ourselves. Abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is the fear of death. So these 5 afflictions, these panchaklesha, because of avidya, we engage into certain actions, certain things, which ideally is not good for the soul. Because of raga, we engage into certain activity, certain bhoga, which is not good for the soul. Because of dvesha, we get into certain kind of emotions, which is not good for the soul. Because of asmita, because of abhinivesh, we only strengthen our bondage of karma, because we engage into those karma which only tighten up our bondage in this prakriti. And what is the root cause? The root cause is contrary knowledge, the avidya, and it is the mind that assists this avidya to stay with us. It is the mind that plays a vital role in retaining the contrary knowledge in the soul. It is mind that is leaving us in the darkness, in the contrary knowledge. So we have to be very careful about the mind. Mind is keeping the soul in the mud of karma. It's getting a little heavier now, so if there's any question, please feel free.
Namaskar, Vijayji. This is Anil. So, are
Yes.
we? One of the sessions also, I think someone mentioned also like mind is your enemy. Like, I feel more like why are we projecting mind as an enemy? Like it is doing its duty. I think all we're trying to take the path of skipping that portion of what mind's duties, right? So to go beyond what it is capable of. So.
Right. Okay. So the reason we have to project mind as an enemy is because you will feel this as an enemy only when you start going against your mind. The reason we don't feel mind as an enemy because we are still running our life in the slavery of the mind itself. Whatever our mind says, we do it. So we don't recognize mind as an enemy, but only when you start going against the mind. And when you see that, oh, mind is not assisting me. I want to get into spiritual path, but mind says, hey, leave it. It's boring. There's no fun in it. It will start eluding you. It will say that, hey, you were very good at playing sports, so much of fun. Why? When it's all waste of time sitting in meditation, waste of time in satsang, waste of time in seva. Mind will start playing these tricks to you. And unless we keep this in our consciousness that mind is an enemy, I don't have to pay attention to what my mind says, but immediately I have to go against it. The moment mind starts playing its trick, before the seed of this trick becomes a tree, or before the slow running wind of mind becomes a big cyclone, You have to diffuse it. But you'll be diffusing it only when you know that mind is your enemy. You won't let it go stronger. You'll rather attack it as soon as you recognize that it has started playing the trick. That is why it is said that mind is an enemy. You have to be careful about it. If you're not careful, then the mind will always baffle you. It will detract you from the spirituality. So follow the wisdom. Don't follow the mind. If mind follows the wisdom, then it is your friend. If mind is pure enough to accept and follow the wisdom itself, then you and mind both will go together happily. But if you follow the wisdom, but mind is not pure enough, it has the impressions of certain bhoga at this point, then you need to do something about it. You don't have to just abide what follow what mind says at that point of time, because mind will not always follow the wisdom. Mind will always follow what is the state of the mind at that point of time.
But doesn't our chitta drives the mind? Like this is not somebody else stuff, right? This is within you.
Yes. When you say within you, it is, when you say within you, when we say you in Vihangam Yoga, you is always separate from chitta. You is always separate from mind. You is always separate from intellect. In Vihangam Yoga, you means just pure soul, nothing else. Everything beyond soul is outside. So even when you say the chitta, mind, intellect, we don't say it is within soul. We say it is within the human body. It is inside, but it is not you. It is away. It is separate from you. So anything which is separate from you, you don't have to follow those. And that is why we also say that you don't even have to follow your sanskara. Your sanskara may misguide you, because your upbringing, the sanskara that you have carried forward from previous life, they may drive you into certain things which may not be based on the wisdom, may not be based on the upliftment of the soul. But just because you have engaged yourself into those activities for births and births, it will feel very natural to you. But there are fortunate beings, whose sanskara itself is the spiritually enlightened. The sanskara itself is the wisdom driven. They are naturally born as a yogi, because their nature will be like that. By birth itself, their mind will assist in the yogic journey. For them, the mind is a friend. From them, the chitta is the friend. But for rest of us, mind and chitta are our enemy. But chitta is an inert entity. Who is the main culprit? Who is the boss of all these inert organs? All these inner organs, the rest of three are inert. They are not functional on their own. It is the mind who is responsible for chitta to work that way. It is mind that feed the energy into chitta, and then chitta starts functioning and starts feeding the subject. It's something like this. If you're in the IT field, then database is not responsible for giving you any result. It is you who write the query. You write the query. You write the select query. Select star from so and so table, where you put a condition into it. The moment you put a condition, it will bring out only those result out of it. You will say, no, it is the database. Database is faulty. Why did database give me this result? No, it is not database. Database job is just to store everything. It is your job to decide what kind of data you want to bring up from there. It is totally up to you. So the mind is what activates.
But isn't the mind is helping you to also in the before even we attain the spiritual journey, right? So
Yes.
like all your sensory organs and all, without mind they can't do anything, right?
Correct. Very rightly said. And that is why mind is not always the enemy. You are very right. Only when mind is pure, when it follows the wisdom, it becomes your friend. But you have to be alert that this friend who has assisted you in the spiritual journey is not your permanent friend.
Sure.
There'll be a moment when it will start going against. So you must not rely on the mind. Mind will act most of the time as your enemy. And only every time it will begin with being an enemy, and then you have to tame it. Then you convert it into your friend. Then you make it a friend and go along. And maybe if you're persistent with your spiritual practices, then it will continue be a friend. But if you give a little chance to the mind, it will take only fraction of second to convert into enemy. Because by nature it is your enemy only for your spiritual journey. By nature it is your enemy. It is your spiritual practices, by the influence of your practices, that it has temporarily converted into a friend. But by nature it is your enemy only.
Yeah, I was just thinking through last few days when I was reading some initial journey of the Vihangam yoga and all. Like, I'm just trying to think through, like, why do we need to treat as a enemy? Like, it is, in a way, it is helping you. It can be a friend too. So that's the main reason. Like, it is in my mind. I just want to get clarification. So
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, without mind, you cannot do these initial practices. Of course, it is your necessary tool. You cannot do anything in the beginning without the mind. Your first stage, your second stage, your third stage of practice in Vihangam Yoga is with the help of mind only. But as I say that unless we are alert, the mind will go against and will detrack you. So you have to convince the mind. Be ready for convincing the mind every time to remain on the track of spirituality.
thank you, Vijay.
So Vijayji, so mind is otherwise it can influence us very quickly. That's what you're saying, for good or bad.
Yes, absolutely. Swamiji says it has infinite number of ways to detrack you from the spirituality. It is so much efficient in detracking you and engaging you back into the worldly subjects. Man ki chaal kuchal hai. Swamiji says that the tricks of mind is very cunning. The mind is very cunning. In different ways, it will detract you from spirituality. It just needs one excuse, one little thing, because everything, it has access to all your emotions. Whatever you're feeling, everything is going through the mind only. So mind has access to everything. It knows your weakness, and it will make you fall into that weakness only and detract you.
I know I'm asking a basic question again. So how to keep the mind away? The bad influence of mind away. How can soul can be strong? So as such, soul is strong entity, but mind is the one making it weak, or soul is untouched. I'm a little confused.
No, it's a very, very deep question. In fact, these are the questions in spirituality which people should ask. See, what is happening is that the soul, only when you hear wisdom, like satsang, right? These wisdom become the strength for you to use the intellect and keep the mind on track. So what happens is that without the wisdom, the soul is like lost into the middle of the ocean, and not knowing which direction I have to go. If you do not have wisdom, you just do not know where to go, what to do. And in that lack of knowledge, lack of wisdom, you will follow what your mind says because you do not know what to do. You'll follow just what you feel like. So the strength of the soul is the wisdom. More you live your life in wisdom, more you feel the powerful from inside, and more you are in the wisdom, more the wisdom is in your consciousness, more you will feel empowered to control your mind, control your temptations. It's something like this. If somebody knows that this is wrong, then only the intellect will stop it. But if somebody doesn't know this is wrong, he or she will just keep doing it. Intellect also will not go against it. It will say, yeah, let's do it. But only with the wisdom, you apply break to misdeed that the mind lead us to. So the strength of the soul is the wisdom. More you gain the wisdom from satsang, more you get hold of your mind, and you then have desire to control yourself from certain actions, because mind is only the tool, the indriyas is only the tool for the soul to get into action. But eventually, whether the soul will really get into that karma or not is totally up to the soul only. Mind will only create temptations for certain things. But who get into actions? Who is responsible for action? It is your own wisdom. It is your own actions. It is your own desire. The three basic characteristics of the soul: the desire, the knowledge, and the actions. These are all parts and parcel of the soul only. Unless soul desire for the action, mind cannot even force and get into that act. Mind can only create temptations for the actions. But if soul has the wisdom, then it will say, no, even though my mind says I should go and do this, but my wisdom says I should not do this. So wisdom is your strength.
Thank you, Vijay. And one last question in this slide. The last one, fear of death. For example, how can I or anybody can come out of fear of death?
See, again, when we
Just
say
one
that, right. So, you wanted to say something more?
No, if it is I don't want to stop your flow, but I'm just thinking if it is.
No. It is important to understand this. The reason, the reason. This is the fear. This is not the death itself, right? If you look at the terminology, abhinivesh is the fear of death, and the fear is not certainly a reality, right? It is just out of the unnecessary fear, people do certain things that they should not actually get into, just out of fear. Oh, something will happen, so and so, just out of the fear. But if people will live in the wisdom, and they will know that no matter what, I have to continue to stick only to the righteous actions. The death, whenever it has to happen, it will happen. But just because of the fear of death, I will not leave my righteousness. Who can think and be strong on that? One who has lost the fear of the death. And who will lose the fear of death? Who will not be influenced by the mind. It is mind that will create that fear in you. But one who is in the wisdom, one who has the full faith on the master, one who has full faith on the God and the system of God, system of karma, it is that person who will just, even though the fear, see, fear is very natural. Of course, fear will still come. But despite that fear, how you react is what will reflect how much wisdom you are living in. Fear is very natural because we are not a yogi yet. We have not attained union with Almighty. So fear will be there, it is natural. But the question here is, because of that fear, are we changing our action or not? If you're changing our action because of the fear of death, that is where I'm saying we are doing so all because of the influence of the mind. The only way out is to develop faith in the Almighty, in the divine, and continue doing the righteous thing. Never ever deviate from any righteous actions, no matter whatever is the state of your life. So it is the faith.
Thank
It is
you,
the
Ji.
faith, yeah.
Nice explanation.
Vijay, Anand here. Uh, my question is about Avidya here. Can you hear me, Vijay?
Yes, yes,
Clearly?
yes, yes, yes.
Vijay ji. So, and the reason I'm asking this question because different traditions, right, and different spiritual traditions, basically, they treat it differently, and maybe their terminology is different, right? And this question is always in my mind, right? Because I definitely read other texts as well, right? So this
Right.
question is always in my mind that because the fundamental reality, right, or fundamental structure, the knowledge, right, should be the same whether you follow this tradition or that tradition, this practice or that practice, right? So
Absolutely.
the fundamental things should be the same. The approaches might be different, but the fundamental things should be the same. So when we talk about avidya in certain traditions, they say ignorance, right, is because we don't know our real nature, who we are actually in essence. And once you remove that, uh, once you find out, once you know your real nature, then all the avidya is removed, and then all the other things like other kleshas you are mentioning here, they'll just go away because you really know who you really are, right? From inside.
Correct. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That is correct.
And so when we say that, and then they go further and say, okay, ठीक है, your ignorance is removed, now you know your true nature, and that nature, true nature, that chit or chetna is only one chetna, right, which is pervading all across, right? So that makes me think, I mean, I don't have an experiential experience, so obviously my thinking may be flawed here, but that means that there's only one conscious entity across the universes, right? But when I look at it in the Bhihangam yoga terminology, I mean, I find different terms like we find Jeev, we find Brahma, right? And it seems like there are two different entities, right? We also find the concept of Ishwar, right? I mean, not in the Vihangam Yoga, but in the other literature, for example, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, right? We find this concept of Ishwar, who is basically someone, a special, consciousness, which basically doesn't get affected because of the karma, right? So then these terms, right, I get mixed up, or at least my understanding gets mixed up in these terms, and that's where a lot of my confusion and question arise. That I mean,
Yeah.
I
No.
understand that the way of inquiry might be different, but then um, the real thing should be one, right?
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. So what you're talking about is the the system of, let's say, Dvaitvad, Advaitvad, Vishishtadvaitvad. There are several thought process that came up in the yogic system, where people say that in Advaitvad it will say that there is nothing you and me, it is all just one, just Almighty. There is just one universal consciousness, and everything else is non-existing. It is just the ignorance. Okay, so our Sadgurudev has actually spoken about all these systems in the last chapter of Survey, and he has very beautifully explained, even at the level because these systems have been brought up into a discipline by the level of mind and intellect. So Sadgurudev also fell down to that level, and at the level of mind and intellect only, he tried to convince people that, see, your this logic, this system, that whatever fundamental logic is the foundation of the system which you have come up with, is flawed. It's not flawless. So what he says, for example, those who say that you and me are non-existing, it is just because of ignorance that you think that you are you and I am I. Because Advaita does not believe in the existence of the soul. Advaita was believe only in the system of one entity called God. There is no soul at all. So our Guru says that, Advaita will say that if there is a rope and there is a snake, it is only because of ignorance that you consider rope as a snake. Our Guru says that if the snake will not exist ever, you can get confused with two things only when both things exist. And then you have to choose whether it's a snake or it's a rope. If we give a logic that the rope is considered as a snake because of ignorance, once the ignorance goes away, then the rope is just a rope. It's not a snake. But you get illuded, you get confused into certain thing only when you are given, you have an experience of two different entity, and now you're confused whether it is this or that. So that is one logic our Guru says to just break this concept of Advaitwad. Then he also says that who is illuded? Who is in ignorance? If there is no other entity, if it is only God, then who is in ignorance? If there is no soul, if there is only God, then who is in ignorance then? Who is in bondage then? That means the God is in ignorance. If there is only one entity called God and there is nothing else, then who is in ignorance? Who is in bondage? By all this, Swamiji wants to say that you and me are individual consciousness, and our existence will always be there, whether you come in the bondage or you go in the liberation. When the layers of ignorance goes away, the first thing that you experience is not the supreme consciousness. In Advaitwad, as you said, it is explained that once this ignorance goes away, then what you experience is the supreme being. It is in a way correct, but that is not the complete truth, because it does not talk about those intermediate experience. It straight away talk about the ultimate experience, which is the state of samadhi. Of course, in samadhi, the experience of the self also vanishes. What remains only is the experience of Almighty. But it does not mean that the other things do not exist. It is as good as this. If you have a visual subject in front of you, and if you have a sound also in front of you, the moment you close your eyes, what remains in your experience is only the sound. Does it mean that the physical object which is in front of your eyes has ceased to exist? Their existence is not there? That is not correct. The things are there, but all that matters is where your consciousness is. So based on that, in the state of samadhi, your consciousness is fully on the consciousness of Almighty. That is why even the existence of the self vanishes in the experience. It does not mean that the soul does not exist. Soul still exists. Soul is a soul, and it will remain as a soul whether it goes into bondage or goes into liberation in union with Almighty. And that is why, by this logic, we understand that at least we know for sure there is a soul. You and me are in different souls, so there are infinite number of souls. And there is one Almighty God who is permeating through everything, including our soul. And that is why, when you go deeper into the self, what you experience is the Almighty God only, because only He exists everywhere. He exists within the soul, He exists beyond the soul, He exists in the tiny piece of the creation, and He exists in the vast creation as well, because He permeates through everything, including our soul. It does not mean that it is only He who exists and this creation is a unreal thing. When we say Maya, when we say this creation, this gross creation, do you think the wall, the chairs, the table that you see around you does not exist? No, it exists. It is called Maya, it is called Sansar, because it is transient. Everything which is created is transient in nature, and it is decaying slowly. It is decaying. It is changing its shape. That's why it's called Maya. It's called transitory. It's called transient. It does not mean that they do not exist, but Advaitavad says it does not exist. So Sadgudev says that there are 6 eternal entities, and that is why I began with that fundamental topic, that there are 6 eternal entities. It is not only the Almighty that exists. It's just that you're closing your senses towards the other existence. What remains is only the senses for the Almighty in Samadhi, that you get so much engrossed in that bliss of Almighty that all remains in your experience is just the Almighty. It does not mean that the other sensory subject do not exist. They do exist. The object, the creation exists. The physical creation, the stars, the moon, the spaces, the bodies, everything is a reality. It is just that it's made of the Parmanu, the physical Parmanu, Adhyatmic Parmanu, not the tiniest, the atom that the scientists have discovered. Our Guru says that the Prakriti, the fundamental atom of this creation is something which science cannot reach to. It is only a yogi who can reach to that subtle level. And that is what is called Parmanu. That is what is called Prakriti. So Prakriti is the fundamental atom of this creation. And that is also an eternal entity, meaning there's an eternal existence of that fundamental atom. There is eternal existence of soul. There is eternal existence of Almighty. There is eternal existence of the vibratory consciousness called Akshar Brahm. There is eternal existence of the messenger of Almighty called Sadguru. So there are 4 conscious entities, and there is one inert entity, and there is one which is neither inert nor conscious called the Kal. So there are 6 eternal entities. So neither the Dvait is complete, nor Advait is complete, nor Vishishta Dvait is complete, but whatever they speak about is definitely it's not a false thing, but it is the partial view of something which in entirety is actually more than that. It is just a partial view. So whatever they experience is not incorrect. I would not say it is incorrect, but it is the partial view of something which is more actually in reality.
I think I totally understand. I think you touched upon that idea that they talk about removing the ignorance, and after that there are stages through which you go through and attain samadhi.
Right.
So I think that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you for explaining that. one last question, and I think there are some other things you touched upon, and there are definitely other questions, but looking at the time, I just want to quickly ask your thought process around when Patanjali says about Ishwar, and when the Vihangam Yoga Swamiji says about Brahma, are they the same entity, or are they talking about two different things?
Okay. So when we say Akshar Brahm is the Madhyam Purush, and Ishwar or Almighty, which is the omnipotent entity, the Supreme Being, is the most subtle consciousness. So Akshar Brahm is a different entity, and Supreme Being is the ultimate entity to which a soul goes in union when it goes in devotion and liberation. Akshar Brahm is the intermediate entity. He is called Madhyam Purush. He comes in the middle of the path of yoga, but he is not the ultimate destiny. Only when you rise in the meditation, it is then the vibratory force of Akshar Brahm is revealed to you. Then you know from where this theory of, these days scientists have at least reached to at least this conclusion that yes, there is a string theory. Everything is driven by a vibratory string. They have come to that conclusion that everything is made of string and it's vibration, there's a vibration in it, and everything is based on that. They are reaching closer to at least the whatever physically they can understand it. And our guru says uh, you know he challenges those scholars in those time when he wrote Swarved. Think about it, that time this string theory and all were not even in picture. People, even the NASA scientists had not started discovering about the vibration in the space when the Swarved was written. Swarved was written much before the NASA scientists made a satellite to discover the vibration in the space. When NASA scientists discovered that any coordinate in the space has a constant vibration, they just do not know who is the source, what is the source of this vibration. But they noticed through their whatever refined gadgets that there is a vibration in each coordinate of the space. And our guru has written in Swarved so much before the scientists went on to this invention. Sadhgurudev already wrote in Swarved, Akshar Mahi Kamp hai. Sadhguru read that there is a vibration in this universe, and that vibratory energy, the force, is being imparted by none other than Akshar Brahm. And it is because of this vibration is that the life is being sustained, the creation is being sustained in this zone of Akshar Brahm. So everything which is in the motion of creation is all because of that vibratory energy which is being imparted by Akshar Brahm. And that is why our Guru said that in the beginning of Sarved Doha itself, that Ek Sakal Askambh hai, Ek Chalavanhar. He said that there is one who is in the base of everything, meaning who is permeating through everything, who is omnipresent, meaning there is one omnipresent Almighty. And then he said, Ek Chalavanhar. And then there is another entity whose energy is responsible for the process of creation, for the process of dissolution of this creation. So that's another energy. एक सकल अस्कंब है, एक चलावनहार, बद्ध मुक्त तत्व एक है. And then there is third entity, which is neither the creator nor the base of everything, but one who either is found in bondage or in liberation. And then he said, and ek chodavan har. And then there is one fourth entity, which is neither in bondage nor, it is not in the duality of bondage and liberation, but it is always in the state of liberation. But it is one who is responsible to take the soul from bondage to the liberation. And that is what is the entity of Sadguru. So Sadguru is not a soul. The soul is not a Akshar Brahm. Akshar Brahm is not the Almighty. These four are four different entities, four different consciousness. So by all that, Sadhguru says neither the Dvait is complete in its theory, nor the Dvait is complete in its theory, nor the Vishishta Dvait, nor the whatever different other forms. But in reality, there are six eternal entities.
Ji Vijay ji, I think I might not have said my question rightly. So maybe we can talk about this later, but just let me just rephrase my question here. I think question was, when Patanjali talk about Ishwar, and then when in Vihangam Yoga we talk about Bhuma or Sarasabd, right? Are they the same thing, or are they the different thing?
Yes, so it is contextual, but in majority of the text, Ishwar is used for the Almighty only. But in certain text, certain context, because see, Brahm is a word which has been used contextually for the Akshar Brahm as well and for the Par Brahm as well. It is something like a nickname, you give a nickname to certain thing. So instead of saying Akshar Brahm, in short, the rishis have used Brahm for the Akshar Brahm. But by the context, it is understood that it is being spoken for Akshar Brahm. Then at certain places, for Parabrahm, which is Ishwar, which is Almighty, for Parabrahma also, in certain contexts, just the word Brahm has been used. That is why I'm saying it is contextual in nature. If you say Ishwar, if you go in literal sense, then Ishwar word has to be specifically used. I mean, technically it has to be used only for the Almighty. But for contextually, sometimes it might have been used for Akshar Brahm also. But in majority of the text, Ishwar is for the Supreme Being, for the Almighty, not for the Akshar Brahm.
Ji Vijay ji, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Today was majority of the time a monologue, so I'm not sure how fruitful the session is today. Because only with your reflection I can understand if things are going right or wrong. Hope things are still tangible for you guys. I'm not going overboard. It's already 6 minutes past the time limit, so we'll carry forward the discussion next week. Thank you all. I request Isha ji to conclude the session with Shanti Path.
Thank you, Vijay ji. Shanti Path. हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांति में शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांति में शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व शांति, देव सदा पल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। बोले सद्गुरुदेव की जय। बैक टू विजय जी।
Thank you, Isha ji. And Jai Sarudev, everybody. We'll meet again next week.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, Vijay ji.
Thank you.